Dong Jun joins me now from Beijing. He's a co-founder at EI China and a sports commentator. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You know, it's early, but how are the Olympic venues coming along? We know that China is expected to incorporate energy-saving features and AI. So tell us more about these greener games.
Yes, actually, Green Olympics was a label or a kind of slogan for the 2008 Beijing Summer Games, and I think if you look at what China has been doing over the last 10 years, it will be always one of the slogans that China will uphold, for sustainability, for development of sustainability. So it's no surprise for the Beijing 2022 Winter Games to say again that we attach great importance to green development. But of course, the Winter Games will be a very, very different challenge for the host city. And don't forget, we have a co-host city, which is Zhangjiakou, a neighbor of Beijing. But the biggest challenge is for China is that very few people, people working behind the scene, have actually witnessed how other hosts have put together the winter sports events. This is very different from China's first ever hosting of the Summer Games, that after several decades of China's participation, very active participation in international competitions everywhere around the world, and China has already built quite some experience in hosting major events before the Olympics. But for the Winter Games, actually Pyeongchang in South Korea was the very first experience for the would-be workers for the Beijing Organizing Committee to actually witness how the events are putting together and being proceeded. And it's a big challenge. And China and Beijing is entering into a 3-year countdown now. And I think it's a very competitive race against time. Of course, China has huge resources in terms of human resources, technological resources in Beijing and around the country. And the organizing committee, as well as the government, has issued a lot of invitations to developers from around the country and also from around the world to bid for all the potential opportunities now open. All constructions of every facility or site is already going on now.
Dong Jun, there is a report that by 2022, about 8 million Beijing citizens are expected to be involved in winter sports. What are you witnessing there in the capital city?
Well, what we hear on our way work in the morning and way back home, you hear very frequent reporting on what's going on now in the preparation for the Winter Olympics. And also, for example, half an hour ago on my way here in my car, I heard a full detailed explanation about a sport which is very strange to most Chinese listeners and people, which is a kind of snowboarding. It's called big air. Mm-hmm. And we just heard the report about Shougang, the site of an industrial plant, a steel plant. And now today's news story is about a new big air slope. A tower is being built right there, right next to the organizing committee's office, as a major attraction for tourists in the future, even after the Winter Games. So I think people are indeed in the news, on social media. They are getting more exposed to news about the Winter Games. And of course, very different from those summer sports. China trained their summer sports champions and athletes mainly in a centralized system. But for winter sports, I think the state system is not that far ahead of the public. I think China is building the popularity of the relatively new and winter sports in skating and in skiing among the general public, rather than relying only on the state system.
Dong Jun, always great to hear your insight. Thank you for joining us from Beijing.